Welcome to the Stress Free Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. As always, I want to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And check out all of my nonfiction and children's books on Amazon. And check out the stressfreedentist.com for any upcoming events. And if you're feeling you're a dental professional that's burnt out, or you just feel stuck or want to get to that next level, visit the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches or www.iadlc.com, and we'll get you matched up with a life coach that understands dentistry. I also wanted to thank our amazing sponsor, Equa Marketing. They have helped me and my practice over the years to improve with SEO and website performance. And to find out how you can make your practice dominate in your area, go to www.equa.com/MSMSFD to book your complimentary meeting. Again, that's www.ekwa.com/MSMSFD. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. And today I am joined by Dr. Bob D. Bob, how you doing today?
Good, good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Like we were mentioning, I've been following you and I'm a part of your Facebook group, and I wanted to meet you for a long time. I love what you're up to, and I want to get into all that you're doing with your advocacy groups, your events, your Facebook group. But Bob, just first give me a little background story of how you even decided to become a dentist.
Oh, that's a good question. A few years ago, my brother and I, who's also a dentist, we started counting how many dentists we had in our family. And this is all around the world. And I think we reached close to 30. So it's almost a a rite of passage to to become a dentist. So I don't know what to tell you. It's like just all we know, I guess. Family business.
And where'd you go to dental school?
I went to dental school. I went to undergrad in California, in San Francisco State, and then back in the 80s, I'm not sure if you remember or not, it was hard not to get into dental school back then. They accepted almost everyone. So I got into Loyola Dental School, and they basically were offering money back then. It's kind of hard to believe, and I ended up in Chicago. So yeah, I went to Loyola Dental School, which I think it's the second oldest or third oldest dental school in the country.
And after dental school, did you associate for a while? Did you specialize? Did you open up your own practice? What happened there?
So, I again back then, today we deal with these corporate intrusion into dentistry. Back then, were the capitation plans that were starting to become dominant. So there weren't a lot of jobs for dentists. So I actually started as a temp agency as a hygienist, which was one of the best things I've ever done because I got to see the inside workings of about 50 different dental offices, and not all
Mhm.
good, as you know. So I tried to start taking notes to what I want to do and what I don't want to do. And then um, I I went from job to job. As you know, that's the name of the game when you're an associate. So I want the young people who are listening to this to know that, established dentists also had to deal with what they're dealing today. And I found a job in Aurora, Illinois, and I started working. The guy was a kind man and took care of me, unlike the other jobs I had. And I stayed there, became full time, and 9 years I worked for him. There is no hurry to buy a practice, in my opinion. If your boss is taking care of you, you're being compensated, they respect you, and there are no issues, you can stay an associate. But obviously everybody wants to own a practice. So after 9 years, I bought him out and he retired. And give him a shout out to Dr. Edward Logman, who passed away a few years ago. That was a good man.
I was very similar. I also bounced around different associateships, and I was actually a little bit longer than you. I was about 10 years before I
Mhm.
took the plunge into partnership and ownership. Personally, I wasn't ready. I wasn't mature enough, I felt like, um, to do it. Looking back, I wish I'd done it a little bit sooner because looking back, I probably was ready. But I just, I took my time with it. Can you actually just go back and can you explain what capitation plans were? I've heard a lot about them, and how those differ from today's like PPO plans.
It's a really good question because, and I'm going to segue into what we're going to talk about organized dentistry. There is a push right now, um, this term called value-based care, which is basically a capitation plan. Capitation plans are nothing but, I call them capitation because most people are familiar with them by the name HMO, health maintenance organizations, or DMO. Um, these are plans that they offer employers, and the office who signs up gets a set amount of money per patient per month, whether or not they use it or not. And based on what you're getting, you're supposed to, quote unquote, manage the care, which we know it's not a good model. It can't happen. So there are a lot of gray areas in how the care is managed, even today, because they still exist. They're not as prominent as they used to be. That's why a lot of the insurance companies are trying to push this value-based care idea, that we're opposing. Um, and it is a way of building your practice. I'm not saying they're bad or somebody who's taken them is a bad dentist. None of that. You can't change a dentist ethics based on the insurance plan they take, right? It doesn't matter. So what happens is, in my opinion, if you're taking it, at some point you have to stop, which I did. I stopped in 2002, a year after I bought the practice. But I had treated those patients for 9 years and I had given them good quality care. So they stayed with me. And to this day, those patients are with me after 20 years.
Yeah, I agree. We did the same thing in 2020. We started to drop some of our PPO plans, and then last year was Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then this year was Delta. So we're fully out of network. And like you said, I had built up great relationships with patients, and some left, but most stayed because of those relationships, and they trusted me, and they trust me. So thanks for clarifying that. Now, tell me about dentistry in general. You have a website, dentistryingeneral.com, but you also have a very um, popular Facebook group. Can you tell me what that's all about and the genesis there?
So, just like everybody else getting out of dental school and working as an associate, I didn't really have time for a lot of socialization with dentists. So, yes, I had my classmates, and once in a while we ran into each other at CE events, but I didn't know any dentists. And dentistry in general was created, the idea of it was created 8 days after the pandemic shutdown on March 20th. And on April 20th, we basically went live. Um, it was created as a support group because back then, there was a lot of turmoil in the dental community regarding opening up, shutting up, like a vaccination, not vaccination, masks, no masks. There were some things that they were calling the dental offices, um, the most dangerous job in the country. I remember hearing that. And when I started defending that, in other dental groups, I got attacked to the point of being threatened by leaving bad reviews on my website. That's why this Bob D came about, because I took my last name off. And some people think I'm anonymous, but I'm not really. I'm all over the place. But that's why the Bob D came out, the name. But it was created to solve a problem, and that was to be a supportive group. So I have been criticized for being a dictator in the group, but I curate and I moderate it heavily because I've been involved in dental communities, believe it or not, since the 80s on the internet. The Usenet news groups, the Internet Dental Forum, then the Dental Town, and I have seen how toxic they can be. People, these keyboard warriors sit behind the computer and kind of ruin it for everybody. So I put it as a mission for myself for it not to become like that. I became a supportive group, and I feel like 95% of the members enjoy it.
So you're no stranger to actually, I guess, being called internet bullied, correct?
Absolutely.
And how do you deal with that personally? Does it phase you?
You know, it does not. My background, whether or not playing poker for a long time, being from a country that went through a revolution and a war, dealing with life and death, being an immigrant in this country, those are the things that I've dealt with. And coming here and establishing ourselves, and then the to 1987 Santa Cruz earthquake destroyed our business. I mean, I've gone through so much that internet bullies are just silly, angry dentists that I can handle quite well, actually. They may not know, but I do handle most of them behind the scenes.
You've been through banking meltdowns, global pandemics. You can handle those keyboard warriors, right?
Exactly. And it's, my friend Paul Goodman and I always talk about this, and I have given him two theories about the dental internet bullies. Number one, those who try to break you are broken ones themselves. Something is serious has happened to them, something they're dealing with something very serious. And almost always when him and I talk in private and talk about, oh, did you see what this guy, I always have, kind of special skills that I can always look people up and see what happened to them, right? And it's almost always they're broken people. And then they're my friend in certain part of the country on the East Coast that it seems like every dentist is angry in that area. So I won't name it, but it's it, it's something we have to deal with, and we have to basically understand that when you um, are on the internet is forever. When you put something down, even if you delete it, it's always there to come and I've done things that I wish I hadn't said online, but it's always there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think those people that do the bullying, something's going on. Maybe they're just angry at the profession. Something happened to them, and this is their way of maybe, releasing that stress. So I agree. And to tell you the truth, it doesn't bother me. I don't have time. I've got a busy practice, a family, a bunch of other stuff going on. I don't have time to worry about negativity. Um, and tell me more about dentistry in general. The website itself, what can I find on there? What kind of questions are being asked? What kind of community is it? Can I ask really just anything about dentistry?
Right. So the website itself is basically a shell. It's somewhere that I point people to bring us to the community. The community is mainly on the Facebook. And I know people complain about Facebook, this and that, but people go to see grandma's pictures and then they look at the dentistry topics and things like that. And as long as you have a community that you curate, this is the most important word, in my opinion, for our communities. We need to have a mission. We need to know why you're here. If you're there to bully, that my group is not it. If you want to talk national politics, yeah, no, my group is not there. We talk about dental politics. We talk about everything dentistry in general, basically. Um, but yeah, if you go to the website, there are two right on top. You see two icons. You can either click it, join the Facebook group, or click it and find information about our in-person event, which I call Digapalooza.
And what's Digapalooza? What's that all about?
Digapalooza, obviously everybody knows Lollapalooza, the big outdoor concert that bring all the superstars in. I named it Digapalooza because when I started doing events, I wanted to make sure the speakers were the speakers that people wanted to see. So, for example, this year we have 5 speakers that I believe it's my all-stars, right? If you want to see any of these speakers alone, you're going to be spending a lot of money. So, um, I put them together, and it's an in-person event in October, usually the last week of October in the Chicago area. I have it in a 20 minutes from downtown Chicago, so a lot more convenient to get to parking and things like that. And I try to not only have great speakers, but to have a great experience. I truly believe the pandemic hurt our profession by that everybody's trying not to do these online courses, or there's no connection. I want to meet Eric. I don't want to meet him on Zoom. At some point, I'd like to meet, and those connections last a lifetime. They will create opportunities for young dentists, help with mental health, and also it creates a community. Online, you may be watching TV when you're watching this course. I've done it. It's very distracting.
Oh, there's nothing like a live event. And I I'm not talking about the big, huge conventions. Those are a different animal, but the smaller live events where you get great speakers, but you network with people, and the people sitting at your table, you start chatting with, and the people later on at the bar, what have you, you just make these relationships. You start asking questions, you be in touch, and then you see them again at the next event, and it becomes this, you just start building these relationships, and it's so rewarding. And as dentists, we live these parallel lives, and unfortunately, a lot of us are in these solo practitioner situations, and we don't engage enough. So I agree, getting out there and engaging with your peers is so important. Um, Tell me about your advocacy coalition.
So before we get into that, I want to mention this as well, that I actually hurt myself by not hanging out with dentists in these events. There is a small little community of dentists that they meet 7 or 8 times a year in my town, and I never went to it. And when I went to it once in that event, I met a dentist who had just sold his practice, and he told me, if I knew you were trying to move your practice, I would have sold it to you. So, and then he introduced me to the location next door to him, and I actually built my practice there. So we became friends and things like that. But the Advocacy Coalition came about because of Dr. Morris Kala in the Massachusetts area. And he wrote the law, the Question 2 referendum, that talks about dental loss ratio, and a lot of this information is on the Facebook group. And if someone wants to learn more, my YouTube channel also has a lot of information on that. I was asked to publicize Question 2 when they were going into the election period and voting for it, and basically trying to influence the ADA to contribute to the campaign, which they did, thankfully. Once that happened, I got the bug. I got the bug of organized dentistry. I had not joined the ADA for a long time, and that was a mistake. So I joined, but I joined not as a Kool-Aid drinking ADA member. I joined because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be the same supportive thing. And I do believe they do a lot of good that people don't know about, which communication is a problem of theirs. But I also believe that they're not focused enough on the plight of the private practice dentist. And that became the mission of my advocacy coalition, which we have, unfortunately, we had to take everybody's secret identity, since some of the local and state organizations started attacking the members of my coalition. So right now, the only people that are out, it's myself and Dr. Riscala. Everybody knows he is part of it. But we have prominent past and present ADA leadership in our coalition. And we want to make a difference. We're not there to destroy the ADA. We want to make sure we strengthen them so we can have a voice in Washington, D.C. There are a lot of good organizations out there, AGD, AID, Alliance of Independent Dentists. These are all great organizations, right? You can get involved and connect with people. But there's no one who has the American Dental Association's resources, structure, and history. There's 163 years of dentists like you and I contributed to this organization. This doesn't belong to the current leadership or the leadership before them or anybody else. This belongs to every dentist in this country. And I don't want people to do what I did, basically sit on the sidelines and take advantage of what the ADA, the good thing the ADA is doing, and just say stuff that is not factual. Oh, they're in the pockets of insurance companies. That's racketeering. Stop saying that. It doesn't happen. So basically, advocacy wants to bring membership of the ADA back to 75, 80%. So we can have a voice. We cannot compete with insurance companies when it comes to resources and money, but we can basically go to Congress, go to our local reps and say, we want you to support this because this is good for our patients, not necessarily for dentists. Everything we do has to be based on the oath we've taken to our patients. So I hope I didn't talk too much.
No, that's great. I'm here in Massachusetts, so I, understand about question 2. Can you quickly explain exactly what question 2 was to those that may be in different states that don't know about it?
Question 2, in my opinion, an opinion of a lot of people on my coalition and around the country, is the most important issue that affects patients and dentists. Question 2 was about DLR. A quick history. The Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, created this medical loss ratio term that forces insurance companies to spend a certain percentage or a set percentage of what they collect on patient care. I think in Massachusetts, it's pretty high, but I think an average is about 80 to 85% for MLR. In Massachusetts, I think it's a little higher. Some states are higher, but that 80% is set for MLR. Now, dentists, because as business owners, we're always apprehensive about government overreach, and rightfully so in certain instances, we ask to be excluded about this. So question 2 addresses that, hey, we want dental loss ratio, which is the same thing as a medical loss ratio, in dentistry. Unfortunately, we don't have a national platform for it. Every state has to do it themselves. And Dr. Morris Kalla spent $3 million of his own money. And then with contributions from around the country and the American Dental Association, I think $10 million, close to $10 million was spent to get this passed. And it didn't just pass, it passed, I think over 70%, 73% of people voted for it. Insurance companies spent a lot of money trying to defeat it, and it didn't happen. So in the state of Massachusetts, the insurance companies are obligated to spend 83% of what they collect on patient care. And that's basically what a DLR is, and that's what we want every state to adopt it. Unfortunately, there was an agreement made earlier this year that it is not a favorable agreement to patients and the profession of dentistry. Unfortunately, American Dental Association put a seal of approval on it, and hopefully we can reverse that in this coming House of Delegates.
Great explanation. Just want to shift gears a little bit and talk about DSOs. What's your definition of a DSO? I know there's a lot of different definitions out there. I wanted to find out about that, and then also about private equity's role in dentistry.
It is a problem. First of all, I want to say this, that I am against the fundamental idea of private equity being involved in healthcare, right? I have a lot of friends who had no choice but to sell to a DSO. I'm not criticizing those doctors. I am definitely not criticizing anybody working for DSOs. Why? Because these are young dentists. We're overproducing dentists, and they need a job. You and I may not give a job to someone who just graduated from dental school. So they need a place to practice. Unfortunately, the mentorship in a lot of these places does not exist, so that is a problem. But also, I want to say that I don't look at DSOs as a huge problem for people like you and I, or dentists. I see it as a big problem in rural areas when choices are limited, right? But anybody who doesn't mind their dentist being changed every 14 to 18 months, which is the average, is not a patient that values personal relationships. So it doesn't really affect us, right? But DSO, the Dental Service Organizations, is a made-up word. It should not even exist. It doesn't make sense. It was created to bypass existing laws that a dentist should own a dental practice. And we have that law in almost every state, right? So DSOs will say, oh, we're not really owners. We are service organizations. We just help practices. Okay, can I fire you? You can't fire a DSO. So they are owners. One of the things that our advocacy wants to do is to actually enforce these laws, get rid of the loopholes. The second thing we want to do is that announce that you're a corporately owned dental office. They don't, right? In my opinion, a DSO is only defined by one sentence. Any dental office or dental offices that are backed by private equity is a DSO, right? One of our good friends, Dr. Sonny Spira, has 5 offices, I think, right? And he is in charge of that, right? I mean, if something goes wrong, Sonny's license, the owner's license, is at stake. At a DSO, what happens when a employee dentist makes a mistake? Nothing happens to the DSO. They just fire the employee. They don't have that much support, and business as usual. So they do not have any, or at least I should say, in my opinion, they do not have any incentive to do the right thing, right? I'm 100% sure there are great people involved in some of these DSOs that do the right thing. I'm not generalizing here, but if there is an incentive for a regional manager or a state manager or whatever they are to come to Eric and say, hey, Eric, your numbers are down. You need to do more scaling and route planning. You didn't do enough crowns last month. I mean, these are the things that does not happen in healthcare. And it's happening everywhere in healthcare. For me, having to deal with this term DSO, although it doesn't affect me as much, but we need to make sure we know who they are, what they do, make sure we have regulations that they're doing the right things, and specifically treating their employee dentist properly. That's what the ADA should be doing, should be representing the employee dentist of the DSOs, not necessarily the DSO themselves. There is this push, Eric, and I'm sorry if I'm talking too much. There is this push to consider the DSOs as part of the diversity of the American Dental Association. That's offensive to someone who considers himself as part of the minority of our community, right? That is offensive. If you consider that, then Bank of America, who lent me money, should be considered as a diversity of the American Dental Association. They're a financial organization. They have nothing to do with the profession and the patients.
Great, great points there. Thanks for describing that and explaining all that. There was some great points there. Bob, I just want to finish up with two final questions. Number one is, how do we find out more about what you're up to, your event? How do people get a hold of you? And then the final question is, what advice would you give to the young dentists out there?
So the easiest way to get a hold of me, if you're on Facebook, just search for Dentistry in General. Those logos are up there. You can see it. The website, dentistryingeneral.com, has links to both the Facebook group and Digapalooza site that you can buy tickets. And as I told you before, I will honor whoever's listening to this podcast. I will honor the early bird pricing for them, which is like $400 off. And there is a chat box there that if you click it, it comes directly to my phone. So if you need a question, if you have anything that you want to discuss, if you need help, my help is always free. I talk to a lot of dentists. If you are struggling with something, if I don't know the answer, which it's a lot of times, according to my wife, I will refer you to someone who does know the answer. So please connect. Do not isolate. Advice to the young dentist. My number one advice to young dentists is take a deep breath and realize that we've gone through what you're going through, and turn off Instagram. Yes, we do have an Instagram presence as well, but these online products that do not form a community have the potential to just bombard you with things that they want you to see. On Facebook, criticize them for whatever they are. However, there is a community. Someone posted a very heartfelt message 2 days ago, and I'm so proud to look at all the answers that people put in to support this member. It was an anonymous post. Nobody knows who he is other than myself, and we're helping him and things like that. And to be honest with you, he messaged me and said, oh my God, it's so great to have that support. So turn off the noise, concentrate on what you're doing, not what other people are doing, and connect. I do these in-person events because I believe in the connection. The profit margin for an online seminar is a lot higher, and it's a lot less work than in person. And that is part of the support of my community that I'm trying to create with the Digapalooza concept.
Oh, that's great, man. I love what you're up to. And it was great to finally get you on the podcast. Bob D., thank you so much for such a great episode. Thanks again for listening to the Stress Free Dentist podcast. And don't hesitate to get in touch with me at info@thestressfreedentist.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Until the next episode, I'm Dr. Eric Block, the Stress Free Dentist.